It actually happened, guys. Verena can finally take a small break from carrying all the teams because Shorekeeper has arrived. And in this video, I am going to showcase Shorekeeper's abilities, explain what's the best way to build her, and in which teams she thrives. Spoiler alert, she's amazing in a ton of teams. Anyway, if you're interested in learning how to build Shorekeeper or still trying to decide if she's worth pulling for, this is the video you need to watch. Now, just a quick reminder, the footage and Shorekeeper stats shown here is from a test server, so content is subject to change. Okay, so why is Shorekeeper amazing? Well, aside from that peak design, she actually offers a ton of value as a support. First of all, she can amplify damage by 15%, but then also, she can boost teams' critical rate value by up to 12.5% and critical damage by up to 25%, which is insane. But if that's not enough, she can heal and apply what I like to call failsafe dodge. If you get interrupted, her butterflies will help you recover super fast. And then finally, she can also auto-revive anyone who dies by sacrificing her own health. Oh, and did I mention she can turn into a butterfly when you hold down the attack button, and then you can quickly traverse and collect the materials around the world? And you can even easily glide across the water while in this mode? Yeah, she's that great. But that's the basic overview of her best selling points. How does she actually work then? Well, if we start looking at her basic attacks, she has a 4-hit combo, and the damage is going to be pretty much negligible. In fact, aside from her intro skill, she doesn't really deal that much damage, and that mostly has to do with the fact she wants to scale with HP to provide better healing. Still, her basics are going to be important for a few reasons. For example, notice how after each attack, she generates these things called collapsed core. Well, after 6 seconds, they release a flare star butterfly, which again will deal very little damage. But if there's more than 5 collapsed cores on the field, her next attacks will immediately convert the cores to that butterfly. But most important of all, basic attacks will also build up her forte gauge, and these stacks or points are called empirical data. You can gain 1 point by using basic attack 1, 2, or 4, and 2 points if you use the third hit. By the way, the third hit also acts as a small crowd controller. It can suck in nearby enemies. Additionally, she can also gain 1 point by doing either a dodge counter or mid-air attack. Oh, and her butterfly mode when holding down attack can also generate all 5 points and even some collapsed scores after you're done using it, but it's mostly there as a comfortable solution to open world exploration. Still, since she needs 5 points to unleash her forte, in the most natural way, you can build up all those points with a full basic attack string. It's that simple. Although, there are a few caveats. For example, after using a mid-air attack, you can press attack again to go into a second hit immediately, and the same thing can be done if she uses her skill. But anyway, what does her forte do? Well, when she has 5 points, if you hold attack, she will consume all points and create this vortex that sucks in the enemies, and any collapsed cores that remain on the battlefield will immediately release the butterflies. On top of that, if you use this forte in mid-air and tap the basic attack, she will immediately go into the second of the attack combo. However, this mid-air version does not suck in the enemies. Now, as for the skill, it will restore HP to everyone in the team. It's pretty decent amount, and then she will release 5 dim star butterflies, which will lock onto enemies and damage them. And there's 2 kinds of butterflies she uses, dim star and flare star. As far as I'm aware, the dim star ones have a slightly smaller scaling, that's all. But let's talk about the Residence Liberation or Ultimate, because there's a lot going on with it. So she will generate this massive field, which is almost big enough to cover the whole Tower of Adversity arena, and by staying inside it, everyone will gain various benefits, depending on which stage the field has been advanced to. You see, this Ultimate has 3 stages: Outer Stellar Realm, Inner Stellar Realm, and Supernal Stellar Realm. Or I'll just simply call them Outer, Inner, and Super. So when you first cast it, we start with the outer state. All it does is provide healing every 3 seconds for the active character. But if you cast intro skill with anybody in this field, it will then move to the next stage, inner, where everyone's critical rate can be boosted by up to 12.5% depending on how much energy regen Shorekeeper has. And I'll talk about the energy regen requirements in her build section. Now, if you use intro skill with anybody once more inside this field, now the field becomes super, and everyone's critical damage is boosted by up to 25%. On top of that, Shorekeeper's intro skill becomes enhanced the next time she uses it, which I'll call Super Intro. However, if you do use her super intro skill, she will immediately remove the field and end the ultimate. But in return, this intro skill damage is the only thing that scales with her HP stat, and it's a guaranteed critical hit. So this is the best way to deal damage with her and start a new rotation basically. Otherwise, if you use Shorekeeper's intro outside the ultimate field, it will deal about as much damage as the skill, so not a lot, and she will provide small amounts of healing. But this begs the question, how does her rotation look like? Well, I'll be honest, as soon as you can achieve full concerto energy and trigger the outro, that's what you want to aim for. For example, if she's equipped with variation, which helps her recover concerto energy after using the skill, you can do something like full basic attack string, use forte, use skill in mid-air followed by plunge, and then complete the basic attack string again. So use forte once more, and then you should be able to trigger outro by swapping out. And as for the ultimate and echo itself, trigger them whenever, but preferably use echo at the end of her rotation, while for ultimate, it depends from team to team. And then, assuming you start a rotation by triggering her super intro skill, it should be enough to do a full basic attack string, followed by forte, then skill, and swap out. Again, use ultimate and echo somewhere in that rotation. It's pretty flexible, to be honest. Overall, the name of the game is to make sure you achieve her full concerto energy as soon as possible, similar to how you would play Verena. While doing that, make sure to, of course, deploy the ultimate, and don't forget to trigger the echo skill. Basically, just set it up so that she can provide all the best boosting before swapping her out. But to be the best, you need the best build. So let's talk about that. Alright, so the goal for you when building Shorekeeper is to aim for 250% energy regen, since this is the maximum amount you can utilize to reach the cap of her critical rate and damage boosting that comes from the ultimate. To do this, we first need to take a look at her weapon options, and it's gonna be a little restrictive, not gonna lie. Okay, first we have the signature. You can get a ton of energy regen from the substat, while the passive allows her to regain 8 concerto energy when using the ultimate, and when she triggers her intro, everyone's attack is boosted by 14% for 30 seconds. On top of that, she also gains a small but nice 12% HP boost just like that. I mean, this weapon is her best in slot, but honestly, as long as you have variation, then you're Gucci. Because while it provides less energy regen from the substat and no attack boost or personal HP increase from the passive, this rectifier can still help her recover same amount of concerto energy as the signature option, except she gains it by using the skill, which is absolutely fine. So this weapon is a great cost-effective option, but if you want extra stats and support from the signature, then go for it instead. On the other hand, if you don't have variation or the signature, then your next best bet is to get rectifier number 25 crafted. But even then, the biggest selling point of the signature or variation weapons is that they help her recover concerto energy, which helps speed up her rotations, so you can spend less time on the field dealing small butterfly damage, and instead you could be doing big damage with main DPS units who are benefiting from Shorekeeper's buffing. But, you know, if you are struggling with finding anything good at all to equip, I guess you could also use Rectifier of Voyager. Now, what about the Echo sets? Well, it's pretty simple. You want to go with the Rejuvenating set. In some freak cases, where another unit could benefit from this set instead, going with Moonlit set along with Heron as the main Echo is fine too. But in the majority of all cases, she wants to be using the Rejuvenating set. And as for the main Echo, the new Fallacy of No Return is going to be her best choice, since it can be easily activated without interrupting her rotation, and it provides 10% energy regen to Shorekeeper and 10% attack boost for the whole team for 20 seconds. Plus, the damage this Echo deals actually scales with HP, which is perfect for her and provides additional way to deal damage besides her super intro. Still, this is a new Echo, so in the meantime, it's perfectly fine to use the big ol' turtle while farming for the big ol' knight. Now, as for the main stats and substats, I'm gonna talk about them all at once because here's the thing. As I said, the biggest goal when building Shorekeeper is to first focus on achieving 250% energy regen. To do this, you will definitely want to have at least one 3-cost Echo with energy regen main stat. But if, let's say you're using variation and you go for a double 3-cost Echoes with energy regen, she will end up with around 216%. But keep in mind, her ultimate actually boosts her energy regen by 10% while she's inside the field thanks thanks to her inherent skill, and she also gains 10% more from the new Fallacy of No Return Echo skill. So this allows her to end up with 236 energy regen, which means you will still want to obtain at least 2 rolls from substats to finally achieve the 250% cap. On the other hand, if she's using Signature in the same situation, she would be slightly overcapped, and extra energy regen from substats wouldn't matter in terms of boosting damage. Again, take into account how much energy regen she can achieve through all means. And then, as for the 1-cost echoes, obviously go with HP percent main stats, while the 4-cost echo, I mean, it depends what you value, but a healing bonus, HP percent, or even critical damage are all fine. If you feel she needs better healing, go with a healing bonus. But if you want a bit better healing, but also some better damage from the new Echo and her super intro, go with HP percent. And if you really just want a big super intro damage, then go with critical damage. But yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to her build. So for video skippers, here's everything you need to know in one place. Shorekeeper is the second Verena everyone's been asking for. There you have it. Alright, on a more serious note, when it comes to team building, we're talking about a super flexible support, since she can be slotted into almost any team without issues. And the thing is, her outro skill provides 15% damage amplification, which is already huge. But on top of that, she will summon these butterflies to guard the active character. And if they become interrupted, you can actually recover from this and deliver a successful dodge. And this can be done up to 5 times, which is enough to make mistakes and learn from. Or I hope so at least. And keep in mind, this outro buff stays on the active character for 30 seconds, so you can maintain these benefits even when quick swapping. Amazing. On top of that, her first inherent skill can auto-revive a knocked out party member by sacrificing up to 50% of Shorekeeper's HP, and this can happen every 10 minutes. Now, for the majority of teams like Jian and Mortefi, Shangliao and Yinlin, she's naturally going to offer better damage benefits than Verena. However, the trade-off is that it takes less time with Verena to build up her concerto bar, so there is a trade-off you need to consider if you're thinking of using them both for something like Tower of Adversity. I'm not comparing them here like who is best, I'm just telling you how they can benefit the teams in different ways. Although, one cool thing I've noticed, her second inherent skill, which I've mentioned, it grants her 10% energy regen while anyone is in the ultimates field, but if you're playing with Rover in the team, they also gain 10% regen as well. So it's a nice little bonus if you go for a team comp such as Havoc Rover, Dungeon, and Shorekeeper. But yeah, for the most part, you will want to start off rotations with Shorekeeper, build up Concerto fast, unleash ultimate and the new Echo, swap out, and then proceed to use sub DPS and main DPS units who can trigger their intros to advance the ultimate field to the final super state, and at that moment, use the best DPS to unleash highest damage, and finally swap to Shorekeeper, especially if her intro can be triggered for some damage, which in return makes the field disappear. An example team that can achieve this rotation super easily would be Jian and Mortefi. You start with Shorekeeper, go to Mortefi, then Jian, and at that point, assuming both Mortefi's and Jian intros were triggered, Jian can now deal best damage in the super field, and after he is done, switch to Shorekeeper and trigger the super intro. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Finally, let's take a look at her sequences and whether they are worth going for. So the first sequence increases the field size by 150% and the duration is extended by 10 seconds. In addition, using her super intro no longer makes the ultimate go away. Honestly, if you're having issues maintaining the super field for quick swap teams, this might be worth getting, but I would highly suggest playing her at S0 for a while before you decide if it's worth going for it, cause it is a very situational upgrade. Now as for S2, pretty simple. The outer stage of ultimate also provides 40% attack boost for the whole team, so not useful for her, but absolute banger of a buff for attack scaling damage dealers. However, S3 is where things become serious. Her ultimate now helps her regain 20 extra Concerto energy, which can happen every 25 seconds. And the thing is, this helps reduce her field time in like half. So if you really value fast clear times for timed challenges, this is a big upgrade for her. Now, S4 provides a chunky 70% healing bonus for the skill when she casts it, and then S5 is actually pretty interesting because it improves the suction range of basic attack 3 and grounded forte by 50 and 30% respectively. Finally, at sequence 6, this is where her super intro becomes Giga Mega Ultra Instinct levels of power, because now it gains 42% multiplier and additional 500% critical damage. It's hilarious, what can I say? But anyway, assuming you want to make her stronger through the gacha system, should you go for her sequences or signature? Well, if you don't have variation, then her signature is pretty much best solution, unless you just randomly gain variation while trying to get the signature. Otherwise, I would say she is very good at S0, and her first sequence is like a comfort upgrade, and for some teams it can be helpful. But ultimately, if you are having trouble in tower diversity and you already have Arena, she's a great and powerful second support unit to use. And if you don't have Arena, well, her value becomes even higher for the tower. But yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to Shorekeeper. Hope you found this video useful, and I hope to see you next time.